What? I can't believe it. Are we finally doing this?
We finally dropping the podcast?
I know. 6 years coming. We're doing it. I mean, we've been talking about it. We're like those two best friends that are always like, yeah, we should have a show. We should have our own reality TV show.
It's low-key nerve-wracking to drop a podcast. We don't really talk about that. It's easy to just sit and have a conversation. It's harder when you have a big-ass mic in front of you.
And you wouldn't think so because, like, everybody has one.
I know, but we're just...
we're just another one.
We're just joining the masses.
But ours will be the best.
Ours is going to be the best. I mean, they already found the podcast. Obviously, they're here right now. But for people who don't know, if you somehow just magically ended up on this podcast, Anna, what's the name of it?
Or you just, like, can't read. It's Let's Stay In. Welcome.
Shout out to our illiterate friends if you can't read. But, yeah.
Everyone's included.
And that's why it's audio and video. So if you can't read, you
options for everybody. We're all inclusive.
We have no idea if the captions are right on this thing. We're hoping YouTube just has that right for
because I don't know how to read. Oh, and let's do like that whole thing that everybody does when they have a podcast. The whole like, subscribe.
Oh, download, comment, the whole nine. Yeah. Make sure you're getting your grandparents to like and subscribe to the podcast. Get your mom to do it, your dad to do it, your brother, your sister, your ex-boyfriend, your future ex-boyfriend. Like
your future ex-boyfriend. You're going to have one.
Your future ex-wife, telling the guys who are listening, listen, get everybody subscribing to this podcast because at some point we got to find a way to make money off this because like
that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
It has to be sustainable, right? Yeah, it would be sick.
It would be so sick.
As much as I like to hear myself talk, I do want to get paid eventually.
Yeah, I mean the gas money for you coming up to LA.
It's brutal, you guys. Help me out.
This wine that we're drinking, this wine doesn't pay for itself.
Oh, but it's so good, I can't stop.
Anywho, welcome to Let's Stay In. We named the podcast this because the best nights are when you're sitting on the couch with friends, having a glass of wine, just kind of chatting about life and letting the conversation go wherever it goes. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to have people on that we're friends with. We're going to have people on that we don't know well at all that are just going to become friends with us while they're sitting on the podcast.
I love it. We're going to force them to be friends with us.
And we're going to get into everything.
You're going to laugh and you're going to cry. You're going to experience it all with us. And I'm so excited.
We might piss you off at times. I don't know.
Maybe.
I have no idea. Who knows? Maybe we'll just come up with some, hot takes, some crazy conspiracy theories. Let's just get nuts with it.
Just don't tell me if you don't like me.
Should we get canceled?
No.
No, okay.
No, I can't handle that.
Okay, we're not going to get canceled.
Before we say anything we regret, should we just jump in?
Yeah, let's just jump into the podcast. Nicole, how's it going?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Life is good.
How's it going?
Nicole, I want you to give your 30-second elevator pitch. You walk into a random supermarket. They're like some stranger walks up to you and they're just like, "Who are you?" and like, "What do you do?" How are you answering that question? 30-second elevator pitch.
Okay, I'd say, "Hi, I'm Nicole Behnam."
There we go.
I do the full name.
Okay.
And then I'd say I have a brand called Beyond where I make learning sexy. Mm-hmm. I've worked in multiple industries. I have a podcast. I produce other podcasts, and I don't know. I love interviewing people.
There we go.
That's what I'd say.
Nice.
There we go. And because they're obviously going to follow up with, how do you make learning sexy? What does that mean? Podcasting?
So, I mean, that's one thing, but I think I started by throwing events. I don't know if you know this story.
I don't know. No.
Okay. So we live in LA where, it's like the influencer scene and Hollywood and all that. And I noticed that when people would go out, it was all about like the photos and the photo ops and who's where and whatever. So then I'm like, you know what? There's so much stuff that people don't know about. Crypto was one of them. That if we made it seem sexy, they would show up. Mm-hmm. So I threw an event as an example called "What the fuck is an NFT?" It was huge. I think there was like 600 people there.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah. And Baron Davis, the basketball player, was the DJ. The speakers were Naval. I hosted it with Neil Strauss. And we had a couple people from like exchanges. We had someone from ENS who got canceled later. But it wasn't like your typical panel. Like there were balloons everywhere. There was signs. There were, balloons in the pools. We had like quotes all over the place. We had videos. It was making learning sexy. Yeah, we made it sexy. And then we funneled in the influencer scene. Because my partner at the time was Rembrandt Flores, and he works the biggest celebrity events. So he helped me with that.
There we go.
Nice.
There we go. Okay. Well,
When you said learning is sexy, I like immediately went to like Babbel or like Duolingo, and I was like, but like with nudes, you know? I was like, I get it. I get the vision. Like you get a word right, and then you get rewarded.
low key, someone will probably
That's
steal
not
that
bad.
idea.
You know what,
It's not bad.
You know what though? I tweeted the other day and it did pretty well. I wrote OnlyFans, but where girls read bedtime stories to you fully clothed. And everyone was like, I'd pay for this.
There's a huge space for that.
And you know what?
There's a lot of lonely people.
Maybe we should start, because you know what? Pornography is killing brain cells.
Yeah.
I'm not saying OnlyFans.
Why are you looking at me when you said that?
Yeah. You're the problem, Mark.
No, I mean, who's the consumer here? I
Listen.
hope not you.
Listen, no, I've actually no.
It's not me.
It's not me either.
I started hearing podcasts where I feel like in the last year, more than ever before, I've heard more and more guys say they're like done watching porn, and I joined that movement. So I've been there for a while now. So
It's bad for you.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's like a movement now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I had no idea, but apparently it's an addiction for some people too.
Oh, there's definitely dudes who are
And
addicted.
so, yeah, there's definitely dudes that are addicted. And so I'm all about making things more wholesome.
Okay.
I love that.
I have no, and by the way, for a lot of people, OnlyFans has been good in the sense that girls experience, they're more safe, they're filming alone. I don't think I could never do it. I don't judge people who do it. I understand, I didn't grow up the way some other people did. I have different values, but I do think that going back to a sense of normalcy is the best way to go. Like, I think the biggest problem that we have is that the way that we live, we don't let the ordinary make us happy. It's always some type of addiction. It's always some type of overindulgence, whether it's alcohol, shopping, consumption, media consumption, pornography, whatever it is, it's consuming people's lives, but all anybody really wants is connection. You know, if the happiest people have trained themselves to love the ordinary, to enjoy the ordinary. Like, the happiest people go outside and they're like, wow, there's sunshine hitting my skin. This feels amazing. I am so grateful. That's it.
Okay, so then I got a question for you based off that.
Same.
Because I said to you guys that I had a question before we started the podcast.
Yeah.
And I feel like this kind of goes with that. So I feel like when I was growing up, I'm 31, right? That when you talked about like somebody wanting to improve the way they looked, they like went to the gym, they ate right, they did, I don't know, back in like 2007, maybe like the Atkins diet. I don't even know if people are still doing that kind of shit. But anywho, it was like diet culture, it was working out, and that was pretty much it, right? Then obviously, like, plastic surgery and whatnot has been a thing for an incredibly long time, but it wasn't as common, at least not that I was aware of guys getting it done until I feel like in the last, I don't know, maybe like 2 to 3 years, I've seen a drastic amount of guys getting plastic surgery done. And last night I was on Instagram and there's this random ass Instagram account, and it was like it was the craziest shit I had ever seen. And it was
I have
like,
the same targeted things my Explore page that I discovered last night of guys before and afters. We got targeted at the same time.
And it was like, was it foreign or something
it
like
was
that?
foreign, and it was like
From Turkey?
yes,
Something
or
like that.
something like that.
And it was like the masculine
facial or the
Yeah,
masculine
it was-
surgery.
Have you seen that shit?
No, I haven't. I know it exists, but this obsession with masculinity and femininity is pissing me the fuck off.
It's gross
It's pissing me the fuck off.
Talk your shit.
because it's like hyper versions of it.
Yeah, and it's like, you know what? So the ideal person can lean into both.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Nobody wants someone that's so hyper masculine in the traditional sense and then cannot lean into their sensitive side, their emotional side. And no guy wants a girl, unless they're controlling, who's completely passive, submissive, obeys everything they say. I mean, the shit that I'm reading online, I'm just like, you're not living in reality. These people are sitting in a basement regurgitating the same facts over and over again. And by the way, it's been co-opted by politics. I can tell you that much. I can tell you that fucking much. And so when I see this shit, I'm just like, you know what? The things that we see on the internet don't reflect reality. they're not always helpful, and we need a way to filter through it. We need a way to filter through it because everyone's going viral these days. A lot of bad shit is going viral, and no one's there to tell, especially young people, like, hey, this isn't the path.
Well, that's where I'm saying, because you talked about overconsumption, right?
Yeah.
And I think everything in moderation makes a lot of sense, right? If you talk about somebody, again, like, I don't know, somebody needs like veneers because their teeth are fucked or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. I get it. I understand that, right? But then again, talking about this Instagram account, I'm looking at that and I'm like, those aren't the same humans anymore. Like, those are two drastically different humans. Like, if I saw my buddy one day he looks like that and the next day he looks like that, I'd be like, my brother in Christ, what?
You'd be asking them questions like, what's my birthday? What's something that no one else would know?
I would like somehow I would think it like effed with their personality, whatever, because it's so crazy to me. And so that's where I'm like, are we going too far with it? Like, would you be, if you met a guy, because here's the other thing. I mean, I'm like all in this algorithm right now for Instagram showing me the crazy shit. I saw another one the other day where they change your eye color.
We're getting targeted at the same time.
Same shit.
These guys are looking like Australian shepherds.
It's
do you know what I'm talking about?
Okay, wait, but Mark, girls do that all the time.
No, but 100%. But okay, but here's my thing. And I'm not saying that I'm a gigantic fan of it in that route either.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, okay, if you go on a date with a guy and he's like, oh yeah, I got a little work done, and you're like, oh really? Like what? And he shows you a before and after photo, or he shows that he got his eyes done. I don't even know. Would you lose interest in that person, or would it not faze you at all?
You know what? Now that I think about it, a few months ago I went on a date with a guy who was wearing a compression garment because,
like, where?
I think, I don't know exactly where, but
like
he told me, he's like, hey, if I walk weird, it's because I'm wearing a compression garment.
The fuck does that mean?
He got lipo.
Yeah. And his body was great, by the way. Like, his body was already good. And I could tell. And I asked him, I was like, well, what's the reason that you did this? And he's like, you know, it's like I got into biohacking, and then, you know, I became sort of a perfectionist. And again, that's why I'm saying the overconsumption of these things, it makes people obsessed with appearance. Even the biohacking thing, it's like everything in moderation. Let's avoid the carcinogens and not pay attention to every single little thing that you have to do.
Yeah, 100%.
It's insanity. And by the way, I was kind of turned off.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you feel, but like, as a girl, when a guy is too focused on his appearance, I'm just like,
they're too focused on you. Then I think I get worried about that.
Because they will. They'll turn it on you because that's just how they see the world, through a prism of how everybody looks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so once they've internalized that, it's like then they're going to start doing that to you eventually once they get comfortable. So that's one.
Yeah. The only part that I wouldn't like, not the only part, the main thing I don't like is someone that's obsessed with biohacking. So clearly health is a priority of theirs, but then to take a liposuction route to do so, I don't hate against plastic surgery, but health, liposuction, like, they don't go hand in hand.
It wasn't about health. It was about the way it looked.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in Legally Blonde, when what's her face is doing the lipo, when she's like doing her like butt workout classes. You know what I'm talking about? And she didn't want anyone to know because she's supposed to be this fitness guru. And it was just like one of those eye-opening moments for me, like 7-year-old me watching that, of like, it really is just all about image. It doesn't matter how it was attained.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the part, because you asked me then, like, you know, obviously women there's not all women, but there are women who get work done and whatnot. And to me, I feel like there's certain things that have, like, society's normalized, right? Like boob jobs, nose jobs, Botox. But I feel like those are kind of like the big three, right?
Yeah,
like,
those are like givens.
Those are like givens, right? But when I start seeing, like, I don't know, I've seen crazy shit where I'm just like, at some point, when are you going to stop? Like, are you ever going to stop? Or are you just like locked in on, I want to look X, Y, and Z? And I saw this other TikTok that went viral, and I know you saw this because, again, our algorithm feeding us the same shit. There was a doctor that was looking at people from, I believe it was Love Island, the cast of Love Island, and he's guessing their ages. And they're all like 25 and under. And every one of them, he's like 34. 36, 38, and it's like 24, 25, 26, and he's like, what in the fuck? And so that's just where I'm like, I feel like, again, if I go on a date and a girl has a boob job or whatever, I'm kind of like, okay, cool. I live in Los Angeles. It'd be more abnormal if you don't have one. But like, there's certain things where I just get worried about that chase for perfection because you can never reach it. It's impossible. There's no person on this world who's ever going to say, like, there's nothing I need to improve or whatever. And then if you're constantly like, I need plastic surgery to fix these things, then when do you ever stop? Like, if you get something done and you're like, I look great, then do you ever stop? And again,
I have a response to that. When are guys gonna stop needing girls to be smoke shows and bombshells?
I don't
think you're like that, but you know what?
But a lot of them.
I've interviewed enough guys recently and talked to enough guys recently and observed the online behavior of guys where I'm like, no wonder girls are getting all these surgeries when they're like, bro, she's a 10, or a girl who's very attractive, they'll call mid. And then I posted a photo of myself the other day on Twitter, and I joked that I was 43 just because I knew I would get a reaction.
Dude, you fucked me up on that. I saw that, and I was like, there's no way she's 43.
It's not adding up.
I was like, she told me her age before. I was like, did I like have a stroke when she told me that? I was like, you had me really confused for a moment because I thought it was a serious post.
Yeah, and so a lot of people did. And then I went and I looked at the comments, and actually most of them were really nice. But there were a few that was like, well, yeah, obviously you could tell when you look at her hands. And I started looking at my hands and I'm like, and I remembered.
Age first.
I remembered there was a doctor that I was speaking to once who was like, you should put filler in your hand because like the veins, like 2 veins showed. And I'm thinking to myself like, okay, this is where the line is drawn. Like, it's actually crazy. So the internet is a place where people become obsessed with that, but someone needs to start shutting it down.
Well, okay, so here's my fix for this, and I've said before and I can give kind of the male perspective on that. I think part of what has caused this is that, especially when I got into photography 8 years ago or whatever, Facetune wasn't a thing 8 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you see the introduction of Facetune or whatever, and at the same time you have the TV show Catfish, right? And I remember somebody saying to me back then, like, have you ever been catfished? As a girl showing up for a photo shoot, looked completely different than how you expected her to look. And, at the beginning I was like, well, no, like not at all. Then Facetune becomes a thing. And it was like within the next like year, it was like probably 10 that looked drastically different than what they looked on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And now we've gotten to the point where it's like we've got Facetune on steroids. Like people are so good at fixing, or not, I don't even want to say fixing, changing.
Swapping their face.
Yeah, completely changing shit where they look completely different. So what I think that does, and here's the aspect about men. Men are really dumb. So they can't tell. That's the crazy shit. Like and there's going to be some guy who's listening to this like, no, bro, I can for sure tell. Dude, there's so many times where a guy will pull up like a girl who's got like this crazy big butt, whatever, and he'll be like, bro, check out that butt. And I'm like, dude, okay, you see how that thing has absolutely no lines on it, no wrinkles, no nothing, no cellulite, no nothing. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, editing. That's impossible. Like, my brother, have you heard of gravity? Have you heard of how skin works? Like, that is impossible. So if you're fine with this, whatever, cellulite and whatnot, then that's fine. Just don't expect her to look like that when you see her, because that is editing. And they just don't get it. And so what I think it does is like Facetune and whatnot has changed what I think male expectations are. And as a result, I think the amount of like plastic surgery that, people are getting done to try to like match what they look like on social or what they can do with an app. Dude, so I think it's an absolute disaster. I think we're headed for disaster. So my solution to it is, and I strongly want this to happen, is I want these social media platforms to start labeling photos as altered. Like, they can tell that kind of shit. There's AI that can tell when a photo has been altered. And they've already started on YouTube now. Yeah. When you upload a video, it asks if any of it is altered. And so AI altered. So I don't think we're far off from there being a thing where a photo gets labeled as altered. And I think that will be an absolute game changer. There will be a day of reckoning because, there's going to be a lot of people who get exposed in that moment. But, like, that will be the best thing long-term for society, for people to know that a photo has been edited. That's my 2 cents. Thoughts?
Okay, first I have a question about the YouTube. What's going on YouTube?
When you upload a video on YouTube, there's an option. There's like a little thing that you check off that basically says like, was this video edited with AI? And it's more for like deep fakes and shit like that.
Are that many people using AI to edit their videos?
I mean, not in terms of, again, like using AI to edit, but to alter your video. So if you're doing deep fakes or things like that, right?
Okay.
So I don't think it's like, they don't give a shit if you use AI to like, cut up your podcast into clips or whatever. None of that stuff. But like more of like if I upload a video of Joe Biden saying, go buy crypto, right? Like obviously that's AI, deep fake, right? So they don't want those videos uploaded. Or if they do, they want it labeled as such, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think though we're far off from photos and videos being labeled automatically as AI because, or as altered because AI can check that shit and tell.
Here's why I think that won't happen. Because when the standards are that high, business is fucking booming, baby. Business is booming. Mm-hmm. Surgeons are doing well. Makeup companies are doing well. Everyone's doing well.
Fashion, hair.
Yeah, consumerism is through the roof. The second you start doing that and people won't feel inclined to upload. That's how you sell shit. That's how these influencers make money. They edit the photos of themselves looking amazing, tag the company, they tag Fashion Nova or Shein or whatever or whoever they're working with, and those companies sell products because that girl is that hot. That's it.
I also wonder if then doctors would do even better if you weren't able to edit your photos, because then you have to match the standard that was initially there. You know what I mean? Like, would cosmetics, hair, everything start booming even more if it wasn't
true? Or
option?
Would the standard not be as high, or the standard of perfection not be as, as specific? Like, it's a very specific, beauty is a very specific thing. It's like, yes, certain guys like thicker, thinner women, whatever, but you can look at a girl and be like, oh yeah, she's stunning. It's not that hard, and that means that it is something very specific. And, we use makeup to achieve these looks, and we use Botox and all the things you mentioned to achieve these looks. It's a very, very specific thing.
Yeah, and I worry about the younger kids. Like, that's really what I worry about, because I think these like 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, like, and even younger, honestly, you see like 12-year-olds talking about this shit nowadays, where it's like they're looking at what they think is achievable, and they don't even understand completely that a lot of it's editing and whatnot, or plastic surgery. And so they're looking at it and they're like, my goals are so-and-so. And it's like, well, you'll never reach that because it's impossible. So that's where we're setting up the youth to think that they don't look good, or that they should have, body image issues and whatnot, because again, what they're trying to obtain is not possible. So that's, I guess, like, I don't know what the perfect solution is. I think the conversation needs to be had, because right now, again, you go on Instagram, you see some of these things that are being done, you see the editing that's being done, and it's just so crazy. And I'm like, technology's not going to slow down. Like, the editing's only going to get that much better, right? So where do we go from here, right? And so now, me being a photographer, I can notice a lot of the shit. Like, I can figure it out. It's very rare that I see somebody that I can't tell, oh, they did this, this, and this to that image, blah, blah. I can tell all that shit. But the average person who's not, used to like staring at faces, editing people, like, you understand how to, again, how people tweak their shit when you're a photographer. But for the average person, they don't understand it.
I have a question. Since you have photographed some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen.
I know what you're about to ask. Ask it.
What percentage of women are altering the photographs that you give them?
A lot. I would say probably a smooth 85%.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I realized when I first got into photography, I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I remember there was one time this girl sent me the photos back, and she was like, hey, can you like do this, this, and this to my body, to my skin, whatever. And I was like, I'm not making those kind of edits to your photo, because by me doing that, I'm basically setting you up for failure, because I'm basically saying to you, here's how I think you would look better, right? And I was like, why would I do that to you? Like, that's so, like, I'm fucking with your self-confidence and all those sort of things. I don't want to tweak your photo in a way to make you look different. If you want to go do that, you're an adult who has the freedom of will to do whatever you want to do, but I'm not going to do that, because I feel like, again, that's me then it's messing with somebody else's body image and everything like that. I'm not doing that. So I never did. But yeah, there'd be plenty of times like somebody would post a photo and I'm like, well, that's not how that looked.
Yeah.
You know?
I booked a fitness cover. This was like back in 2017. And I remember getting that cover back and it was just like, who is that? Like the guy added an ass on top of my ass. He basically added like a toupee on the top of my head. And I thought to myself, like, especially then when my self-esteem was very low and I was modeling and I wasn't eating very much. And I thought to myself, like, I hate my body too. Like, no wonder he changed it. But then I also had the thought of like, then why did you hire me? If you wanted to make me into something completely different, why choose me? Which is why I always really appreciated you not sending photos that were edited, because I always looked at the changes that people made and then I would take note and say, okay, they keep straightening my nose or they keep slimming my jaw. So clearly that's something in the eye of a man that needs to be changed to then make myself more attractive to the masses, you know?
Which is fucked.
It's really, really fucked. And I think what was interesting is when you said like, what can we do about this? And you said, well, women need to stop editing their photos. And I think it is a team effort. Did
I say that?
No, you didn't. You did. You're like, well, women need to stop doing Facetune. And I think that once again puts like then pressure back on the woman to then not do something, where I think it's like a team effort of somehow like men need to, adjust their expectations. Women need to stop feeding into the problem. It can't just be an either or.
No, but I'm saying that's where social media is hurting men or not helping them, because I don't want to make excuses for men, but there's so many who don't understand editing. Like they just don't get it, because I don't see dudes face tuning photos. Like, and I'm sure there are.
They are.
No, they are.
We live in LA, so
one of my exes used to add like another pack to the 6-pack sort of thing.
Yeah, like LA, that doesn't shock me in the slightest. I don't think a dude in like, the Midwest is doing that. But there's still, in the Midwest, we still have people using Facetune and whatnot and things like that. So I just don't think the average guy is used to looking for it. And so as a result, because they're not used to looking for it, then they're like, oh, well, no, I don't think her photo's edited. I just think that's how she looks. Then she shows up and then he's like, what the fuck? This is different than what I expected. And now we just have this like clusterfuck of missed expectations. I don't know. So I just don't think it sets anybody up for success. And so I'm not making it a male versus female issue or anything like that. I'm just like, either we got to educate men that women are editing images, or we got to stop editing images. One of the two. And and again, that's why I'm all for the label. Put a label on it. Edited image, it has been edited.
But I think this actually represents a much larger issue, which is that all the pressure is to be beautiful and not to enhance any other qualities about yourself. Well, especially here. That's
where I think, okay, so then the reverse issue for men. All your pressure is on making money.
Yeah.
And so we live in a fuck society where, like, I saw some TikTok the other day that was like, if a guy doesn't make $250,000 or more, I'm not interested. And I was like, do you understand what percentage?
How old was the girl?
Probably 26-ish, somewhere around there.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I was just like, do you understand what percentage of people in the United States make over $250,000? It's an incredibly low percentage of people. Incredibly low. I mean, the median salary in the United States is like $55K. So it's like, what are we talking about? And again, and I'm not saying you can't have high expectations and stuff like that when it comes to like wanting your partner to be successful and whatnot. But at the same time, just know what we are setting ourselves up for. We're setting ourselves up to say to men, your job is to make as much money as humanly possible. And women, your job is to look as good as humanly possible. And then we set up this like superficial society that's why we have a divorce rate of 60% damn near at this point.
You know what I have a harder time with is the hobbies on Instagram. Like, looks don't really do it for me. Money doesn't really do it for me. It's the girls that are like cute and play the guitar and can surf and are athletic. Like,
wait, what about them?
That is what makes me feel like I start comparing myself in that way, where I'm
That's
like, why can't I be a bitch with hobbies? Like, I want to be able to like bounce a basketball and like fucking shoot a 3-pointer, whatever you make in basketball.
But do you think you don't have hobbies? Like, if you really think about it, there's probably stuff you do like to do. Like when you were talking to me about what you do in San Diego, and I'm like, that's a hobby.
So my hobbies, I think it's like I've kind of been brainwashed. And I've broken out of that now that I'm in a healthy relationship. But before, I used to think that I had to have hobbies that would make me more appealing to the opposite sex. So I was like, okay, I have to somehow, I have to have the fake tits. I have to have the long blonde hair, but I also have to be able to like crush hot dogs, crush beers, maintain that figure, also play football, have like a mean spiral, but then also know how to bake. You know what I mean? And it was like, because I think it was because one of the reasons I always dated football players. I always dated, trainers, like people that were really athletic. So they really appreciated a woman that could talk sports, could play with them, help them train, but then also have that like sort of housewife appeal. And so I'm trying to check all of these boxes. And then when I go on Instagram and I see this hot blonde who's able to surf, play soccer, has her own clothing line, bakes, makes everything from scratch, and can throw a football in the backyard, I'm like, she can do it all. How can I compete?
Damn.
Yeah.
No, that's real.
That's the thing I have a hard time
real.
with.
That is fucking real. But that's the thing. It's interesting because when I look around at the girls, women that have relationships that I look up to and want, none of them are 10 out of 10 smoke shows. None of them. Mm-hmm. And now that I think about it, none of them surf, play the guitar, or any of these other things that you mentioned. So it's literally just in our heads and the way that we're being programmed from being online all the time.
I know.
Because, I would look at someone like you and think like, I bet she has a boyfriend. I wouldn't even think, do you have hobbies or not? I bet if I haven't even looked at your Instagram profile yet. Mm-hmm. I haven't. This is the first time we're meeting. I
feel like people would look at my page and be like, she doesn't have hobbies.
I don't know.
No.
I mean, but I
don't scream hobby girl.
But I wouldn't even think that. It's so funny that you're saying that, because I bet you so many other people have thought that. And I'm sure there are times I think I look at certain profiles and, there's this thing that it's like, can a woman have it all? Can a woman do it all? And it's like, first of all, nobody can do it all. Not even men. Nobody expects them to do it all and be a nurturer and also provide.
Oh no, we expect like two things out of the list for a man.
Yes. And so when I look at women like Emma Grede, who has Skims and Good American and all that. And then
I don't even know who she is.
She also has, that's the kind of women we need to be elevating.
Absolutely.
I think. And then, she also has an amazing supportive husband and 4 kids. And I'm like, oh, wow, like that's where I need to be at, And so that's what I look at. But I try not to let it make me insecure, because also not everyone can handle the same pressures, and that's fine.
No.
Like, that's fine. I mean, I cannot, or I have not up till now, maybe things will change, but I don't wake up at like 5:30 in the morning and then do an ice bath.
I don't want to.
Yeah, like I don't do that. I need my beauty sleep. And I've started to, I have a friend, she's very confident, and she sets the tone of the relationship from the beginning with the guy. Mm-hmm. Like, she'll say, by the way, I don't cook. And she says it so confidently, or by the way, I don't post photos of my boyfriends on my social media, because to her, it's like, unless you're my husband, then it's like, what are we doing over here? That's how she sees it. Mm-hmm. And the guys always really respects her. Her current boyfriend really respects her. And I think women need to be a little more confident in the way that they are. And
I totally agree.
Be taught to be confident, which we're not. We're not taught to be confident. And also, I don't think men are either. It's this pressure that you talked about feeling the need to make so much money. I even saw a tweet the other day where someone was asking, like, men, what advice do you have to give to younger men who are in their 20s these days? And there was a response that said, make as much money as possible. And it had more likes than any other response in the replies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
that's what but to be honest with you, one of my rules, and not that I'm saying I know so many of them, but I know a lot. I would never be with a billionaire. Personally. No, I would never be with a billionaire.
I hope the standard doesn't become billionaire, because
I had the opportunity to date a billionaire, and I don't like it. I do not fuck with rich guys. They freak me out, because when money, to me, too much access, and I feel like to have that level of money, either you would inherited it, or you have a freakish nature about you where you're able to attain that. I don't want to be around anyone that's even making millions. It's been an issue for me where I will date broke guys before I will date a rich guy.
I will date a rich guy. Just FYI to anyone who
I like an ambitious guy. I like a guy that can get by, pay his bills, but like a rich one, I stay away from.
It depends how rich. I see where you're going with that, and it's the same thing that you were talking about. The reason I'm not down for billionaires is because most of them that I've seen, with few exceptions, they've gotten there. You can tell there's a little bit of narcissism. There's a little bit of I'll screw anyone over to get there. And 2, the amount of access that they have and the amount of freedom to just be like, you know what, she's acting up, I'm out. I've seen it a million times. A lot of them are cheating. A lot of them are banging hookers on yachts. Like,
always.
This is not a wholesome situation to me.
Paying people off.
Yeah, these kinds of things. And it's like, I don't know, we need to talk about this stuff. And also we need to repair the relationship between men and women because it's being destroyed on the internet. I have never, the Fresh and Fit podcast, the whatever podcast of men, misogynistic men yelling at OnlyFans girls is not representative of larger society. And by the way, just to clarify, I have no problem with OnlyFans girls, but some of the ones that they've handpicked to be on those shows are not equipped to have those conversations.
I don't even know what show you're talking about.
Which is so mean.
See, Mark, because you're a good guy.
I haven't heard of it either, but I know the dynamic that you're setting up. It's basically easy targets.
Yeah, thank you. And so, you know, I'm someone that because I work in media, I spend a lot of time on the internet, fortunately and unfortunately. But I pay attention to what men are watching and listening to, and I'm in those little rabbit holes, and I'll check on Reddit and I'll see where the numbers are. Like, I mean, it's there for us to see. Virality is there. You can look at the numbers and it'll tell you everything you need to know. You can look at how many times something has been shared now. And when I see a high number, and I've been seeing it a lot with those particular podcasts, and I listen to the content, I can't believe how much men and women are being pitted against each other. I mean, no wonder that so many of us are struggling to find love.
What are some trending topics you're seeing right now?
So
that'll upset me the most.
We watched Andrew Tate get really famous.
Yeah.
We have a friend who's about to go interview him in Romania. But we watched Andrew Tate get famous, and we saw the kinds of stuff he was saying, right? About, you know, being with younger women and all that stuff. And so that's on one side. On the female side, I've been noticing this woman, Shira7, get pretty famous. You know, the sprinkle lady?
Oh, wait, no, I was thinking of the trad wife, Nara. Never mind.
Oh, yeah. Is that the one who like cooks and bakes
everything
and
from scratch? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to her.
Who is Shira7?
Yeah, who's that?
So Shira7 is this woman who basically teaches girls how to hustle guys for money.
Oh, God.
Shira7.
But she's well-intentioned, you can tell. Like, it's not that she's trying to set women up to be like sugar babies or anything. That's not the vibe that I'm getting. It's that she's saying, look, a lot of these guys are after sex. You should know that. And so here's what you need to do, you know, to see if how serious they are. How much are they going to put up? Don't put out, and don't this and don't that. And so I look at what's going on, and my only conclusion is we're being pitted against each other. The notion of love has completely dissolved. It's been tainted. It's so far gone because everyone's like, oh, the movies aren't real anymore. You know, that's what we grew up with, where like the concept of a crush, and to some degree, I kind of agree with it. Like, what does a crush really mean?
Well,
when Mark, you have so many female friends. Most of the guys that they're crushing on who have disappointed them, where has that led them?
To a point of insecurity?
Breakdown?
Insecurity,
Lobotomy?
breakdown, obsession. And so, in a way, I sort of understand how those movies mess with our head. You know, we have a crush on a guy, we fall in love, this is how it's supposed to be. And we were never taught how to grow with someone else, or how to build intimacy, or ask questions that get you closer to each other, or how to help each other grow in certain areas, or nobody talks about this stuff. Everyone's just talking about how to be hotter, how to be richer, how to seduce a guy, how to seduce a girl. Here's what you do. Here are the games that you play, and that's it. But that doesn't bond you with anybody. That's just attraction.
Well, that's where I think we have the issue we have, is that I feel like we elevate these couples that we assume their relationship is great when it's really not. For example, I think if you take it back pre like influencers and everything like that, I think there were a lot of people who looked at Will Smith and Jada Pinkett and they were like, they have this perfect marriage, blah, 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 blah. Then the truth comes out of their marriage is absolutely fucked. And like now people are like, oh, okay, not so great. Now you have people like Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber, and I'm not stating what the quality of their marriage is. I have no idea. But I can almost 99.99% chance that I have no desire for the marriage that they have, because what you see on social media rarely is what is actual, in person and things like that. There are all these couples that are out there that do have these incredible marriages and things like that, but those are not the ones that are getting the social media attention, right? So I feel like we're just not setting people up for success because we're putting these ideas out there of like, this is your ideal marriage, like seek that. And then we're somehow surprised when like those marriages don't last. And you get all these people like, I'm absolutely heartbroken that so-and-so and so-and-so got divorced. And I'm like, did you really think they were going to make it? Like,
but also, why are we so invested in these people's relationships who we don't even know?
Escapism.
And so that
facts.
Escapism, one, and two, it's like we need to be moving people away from the algorithms, making people more intentional about the way they consume media. I have to do it too. Mm-hmm. Don't you? Like look at all the insights that you have on even your own behavior on social media. Like that's brilliant that you know that. Okay. Hell yeah. Like, no, seriously, the fact that she's like, oh wow, I look at these other girls and I'm like, oh, now I have to have hobbies and this and this. Like that's actually pretty good data. Yeah. I'm gonna start thinking about that because
I'm a researcher.
Great.
A data collector.
Yes, same.
Hunter and gatherer.
I love that. Same.
Yeah, so, I think, going back to your earlier point, though, about Andrew Tate, I think one of the things that he does, because I'm a big fan of what I do, is anytime I see somebody who's gaining a lot of internet traction, I'll listen to their content. Whether I agree with them, whether I don't agree with them, whatever, I will listen to any and all content just to see, okay, why is it that this large amount of people are paying attention to this person, consuming their content, and everything like that. Andrew Tate at one point was the most Googled person on the planet, which is crazy. I mean, that is a wild title to have, right? And so I started watching some of his podcasts that he had done to see, okay, why is it that all these men gravitate towards him, right? And what I found is that what he does, and this is what I think his textbook is or his playbook is he says 90% of the things that he says are, I would say, understandable and rational to most people, where they're not crazy takes. They're pretty rational. And you go, okay, yeah, I can agree with that, right? Then what he does is 10% of the time he says this absolute crazy shit, right? But what he's doing is he's programming you with the 90% so that one day when your mom's talking and she says something and the 15-year-old, 16-year-old goes, oh yeah, Andrew Tate said that same thing. And she's like, well, okay. And she's kind of like trying to figure out, well, like, why does, my son's kind of agreeing with Andrew Tate, or maybe she doesn't even know who Andrew Tate is. But in that kid's mind, he's like, okay, she just said something that Andrew Tate has said. So then when he says the 10% crazy shit, that kid now is reiterating those things. And he's like, well, if my mom agreed with the part of the 90% that he said, then she should probably agree with the 90 or with the other 10%, right? And that's where the problem lies. So that's what I think he does, is the shock value is the 10%. The rational thought is the 90%. And so when somebody's like a diehard fan of him, they're like, oh, well, if you're like turned off by that, crazy shock value clip.
Well, watch this.
Watch this.
Yeah.
And you should watch the rest of it because he's got these rational thoughts. What they're doing, though, is making excuses for the crazy shit of the 10%, right? So, and what he's doing is all he's looking to get is this cult-like fan base who are then subscribing to his, Hustler University or whatever it's called. And that's where he's making all of his money for $50 a month or whatever it is. And he's got like 100,000 people who are subscribed to that, right? So, I mean, again, that's his playbook and he's executing it perfectly. And it's because, again, you have, he knows what he's doing. I severely doubt he actually thinks most of the crazy shit that he says, but he's playing everybody like a fiddle, and he's making his money from it, Now, with that said, he's, locked in Romania because he's broken too many laws and absolute scumbag. But yeah, I mean, that's his playbook and he's playing it. So.
I think that theory applies to political candidates too.
Oh,
100%.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
100%.
Wait, so what bothers you about like people interviewing him?
I don't think we should platform him. I just don't think we should platform him. Like, he already has a platform. There's no reason for us to give him any more shine. It's something where I just don't think, like, again, I think he just plays everybody. So it's like, doesn't matter what you're doing, you can have him on a podcast. He did a podcast with George Janko a few months ago. It was a solid conversation. There was nothing in it that was said that I can remember off the top of my head that was like outlandish or anything crazy, right? But then the same week that that's released, he's on Twitter tweeting out the most foul shit that I've ever seen, right? So again, he's capturing people with the quality, or with like the rational content, and then once they're hooked, he gives the 10%, and those people are now spreading that 10%. That's my problem that I have, is that it's not. I don't worry about, like, I don't know, if there's like a 30-year-old dude and like you're caught up by the shit Andrew Tate says, like, you're probably an idiot. But I'm worried more about the 15-year-old, the young mind that like is being molded by somebody like that.
Okay.
So that's my issue with it.
So here's where I'll push back, because I hear what you're saying. So let's say someone interviews him.
Yeah.
You're saying don't platform him. He's already platformed. This guy has more attention than most people. Okay?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So let's say a good person. You like George Janko?
I don't mind him.
Okay.
Not like I don't agree with everything he says, but yeah, I don't mind him.
Yeah, but you would say that he's not as toxic.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So if someone who's good goes and does an interview with him, he arguably has a bigger following than almost anybody that can interview him.
Yeah.
Certainly our friend.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is he's platforming them. All of these people are going to discover the interviewer through that interview. So
that's true.
So at least some of the attention can go to the interviewer, and maybe they'll follow them. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like I look at like Patrick Bet David got so much bigger when he did those interviews.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't agree with everything Patrick Bet David says, but at least he's like a family man who's loyal to his wife and like talking about fatherhood all the time. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know who any
So-
of these people are. I've never watched an Andrew Tate video, and I don't know who that is. I'm
You're
like,
not missing much.
I have
Please.
adapted or adopted a like kind of like an old person mindset in the way of like, it's good enough the way it is. I don't need to like improve it. Headphones. I don't want to get AirPods. I don't want to like anything, new.
Yeah.
I don't want to like always have to like what you were saying earlier about the simplification of things, how that's better, like not always having to improve what we have. And then like it desensitizes you to the appreciation of what you do have. I have friends that make fun of me for being very stubborn, but that's an element of it, as I don't want to get the new phone. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. This is good enough. I'm happy with it. I'm going to work on all of that improvement being on the inside.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And by the way, no one has to know who these people are. I'm just saying I wouldn't mind like a really good, wholesome person doing an interview with Andrew Tate, because at least there'll be discoverability for that person.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's the
totally
only-
agree.
There's, with everything, I can find some aspect of it that I like, right? And so yeah, again, if somebody, if Donald Trump said to me, like, will you sit down and do an interview with me? Like, I'd be crazy not to, right? You're getting the platform of a ton of people. I don't agree with a lot of the shit that he says, but like, I would do it, right?
So you would do it.
And vice versa, I would do it with Joe Biden. I mean, it's like, so
Yeah.
I understand it. I still don't like it. So that's my only thing. And I can understand something, not like it, and still say that I would still probably do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair.
I hate that it's a thing, I guess. I'm like, I just wish Andrew Tate's content was disappeared from the internet, right?
Zap it.
Because again, I worry about the younger kids, and I think that's what a lot of this stems back from, is like, I'm 31. I can watch content and decipher what aspects of it I agree with, what aspects of it I don't. But when somebody's 15, 16, they don't even have their own individual thoughts yet. They just regurgitate whatever they hear, right? So that's my issue with them, is that like, there's so many times you'll hear some like 15-year-old who spouts off of some political take, and you're like, okay, dude.
Yeah,
like,
you
all
don't
right,
know
baby.
shit.
Yeah.
Okay, but so then here's the thing. We need to start getting strategic about it, because Andrew Tate was very strategic about the way he got famous.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what is it that's drawing these kids to him that makes them feel so inspired and alive and fucking fired up? So if it's a persona, give a good person that persona. Let them spew good shit.
The tough
with a
part
little
is,
bit of you know what I mean? It's
but
just
the tough part is shock value.
It's
like
the God complex too.
Well, but shock value
Yeah.
gets clicks, right? Like, I mean, we've seen, you know, there was a girl the other day on TikTok that went viral for saying the N-word. A white girl, right?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And it was like her content is going to go viral because of the fact of shock value, right? There's going to be a shit ton of people who share it who just go, that is the craziest shit I've ever seen. Why is she doing that, right? But as you're doing that, it's racking up views and everything like that. It's also going to attract the crowd that agrees with her and is like, hey, I think what she's doing is right somehow, you know? And so again, it's like shock value content is all, you know, has been a thing for as long as the internet's been around, right? And I mean, now obviously that's, you know, another aspect of that is clickbait, and how many times there's a clickbait article that people don't even read. They share the article based off the headline. Then you read the story and you're like, the headline is very misleading, right? And so again, it's like we just live in a culture that wants to digest content in 2 to 3 seconds, decipher what they think of it, and then move forward from there. So shock value content is always going to capture that, you know, that will get them to pay attention. And then as a result of it, they're willing to watch longer content, things like that, strictly off the shock value. So the issue with it is you can either play that game and go the shock value route, or you go more the slow and steady route of like building a platform and doing it kind of the way that you want to do it. Because to me, I mean, I go back to, I would never want to build a platform based off content that I don't agree with. So I could say some crazy shit. I could come on this podcast and just say some outlandish shit and clip it, and that clip will go viral on TikTok in 2 seconds.
Yeah, especially if it has like a political twist or something.
Oh yeah, 100%. I could literally make a take right now on Donald Trump, a crazy take on Donald Trump, make a crazy take on Joe Biden, clip both of those, post both of those on TikTok, and they would gain massive audiences of the other side of each side of the spectrum, right? And I could play both sides like a fiddle, right? But I wouldn't do that. That's not me. But again, people have that option. Shock value works. It's just, it works to create an audience of people that I think at some point you will look back on and go, oh God, why do I have this fan base? You know? And there are plenty of people who I think have gone about it the right way. I think Jay Shetty has gone about it the right way in terms of like a lot of his content that gets shared are these like insightful quality clips and things like that. And so again, I think there is a way to do it. And I don't know his exact playbook of how he got to the position that he's in, but I do think there's a way to go about it the right way. That would be my 2 cents.
Has anyone ever told you that you should be a lawyer?
No.
Oh, I can see
really?
that. I can see that for sure.
Oh, I think you would kick ass as a lawyer. Not saying it's a great profession.
Yeah,
but
yeah. My brother's a lawyer. Interesting you say that. What's the reason?
Obviously really well spoken. But I will completely agree with a take, and then you convinced me within 20 seconds.
Really? That makes me
I don't
so
know if
happy.
that makes me gullible or if that just makes you persuasive, but you're obviously very intelligent and you have, I can tell, a lot of lived experience. So whatever point you're making, it seems like it's very well rounded and you've come to it with all the data and the facts and the experience. And I'm like, all right, sold, sign me up.
I love that you went to lawyer.
Yeah. Oh no, you should be a lawyer.
But the thing is, when you say like, oh, you make really good points and stuff, I'm just thinking like, oh, then I'm in the right profession speaking for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that I think there's a difference between like speaking and educating people, and then like speaking and then like changing the course of someone's life. You are good enough to change the course of someone's life in a legal matter.
Well, I actually think it's interesting you say that, because I actually think I would have less global impact as a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And more doing this kind of stuff. And, you know, I don't know if you know this, but my mentor is this guy, Chris Voss, who's a former FBI hostage negotiator.
Let's get him on. I want a criminal profiler. I want a hostage negotiator.
I know. He's always flying around, but at some point he would be great for you to have. And I have learned so much from him about how to listen, how to talk, tactical empathy, like just every single tactic that he writes about, which by the way, his book is, you know, one of the top business books, period. And then his masterclass is the #1 masterclass on negotiation.
What's it called?
I don't know. It's
or what's his name again?
Chris Voss.
Chris Voss. Okay. You can just Google it then.
And so I think the way I communicate has been molded a little bit by the things that I've learned through him. Mm-hmm. And it's probably the best skill you could ever learn. negotiation, because the negotiation skills just help you become a better communicator. And when you're a better communicator, people feel heard, people feel safe, and they actually feel safer changing their mind because it's not like you're forcing them to. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like if I was in a court of law with a jury and all this stuff, like it's a different experience. It's a different, you know, but this is so much more human.
Yeah, and a big part of negotiation is listening. And I think there's like a look in someone's eye when you can tell if they're waiting to be able to speak next. And you have a look in your eye where you are fully present and you're not calculated.
Oh my God, that makes me so happy.
Mm-hmm. Immediately noticed, like when you sat down, when you first started talking to us, when you came into the room, I was like, she has a very different presence than other people that I've met. And one of them being the fact that you wait your turn to talk in a way of like that they have the mic. Yeah, it's really cool.
Thank you. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, it's cool.
Fair. Okay, so I got a question for you, Nicole, and obviously Anna. This goes for you too. This goes for
Can
you
I talk?
Too. So one of the things that we were kind of talking about before we started this podcast is this idea of like, are your friends helpful? And what I mean by that is, you know, coming based off the conversation we just had, right? Anna's talking about how like you listen really well, you talk really well, you communicate really well, things like that. I feel like a lot of times people's friend groups are not overly helpful. And what I mean by that is they just tend to agree with whatever you say, right? So if you're like, you know, hey, I'm dating this guy, what do you think? They're like, well, okay, in their minds, well, it would be if I just tell her that like the guy's great, then like that'll make her happy, so I'm just going to tell her that, right? And they just become yes men, right? And so I feel like a lot of people's friend groups are not overly helpful. And I think for the most part, they actually hurt you because they're telling you what you want to hear versus what you should hear. But then I feel like a lot of times there's plenty of people that when their friends give them honest, true advice, they then are like, well, why are you being so mean to me? Why are you just not supporting me? Yada, yada, yada. And instead they turn on it. And so they end up developing this culture of friends who don't actually give them good advice. They literally just become their own sounding board.
I want to hear what both of you have to say after this. But I think when you're young, friendship is all about fun. It's all about fun, who you're having a good time with, who you're making memories with. And then as you grow up, you realize that not everyone is a loyal person and not everyone is able to feel happy for you. And not everyone's going to be there when you're down bad. They're only there when you're up. And so we have this problem where we haven't defined what it means to be a friend. And what I realized, because I read a book that was like, we haven't even defined love. There's all these things that you know, people are calling love that are really emotional addiction and lust and this and that. And I'm like, oh shit, what else have we not defined? And friendship was one of the first things that came to me because I've had so many friendships not just fall apart, but like drift apart, you know? And then I thought to myself, okay, well, what's my definition of a friend? Mm-hmm. What is my definition of a friend? And to me, a friend is someone who is there for you during the bad times and they're a support system, but they're also celebrating when things are going well for you. They're able to give you feedback when you need it. They listen to your feedback, at least consider it. And you're also that person to them. And then, of course, fun has to be a part of it. I think if there's no fun being had, something's a little off, you know? Like, it can't just be a super serious relationship. Like, there needs to be some levity, some humor, inside jokes, things like that. But I'd put that way lower on the scale of what's important. And so I think we need to define friendship instead of like, you know, girls in 2 seconds will be like, this is my best friend. And then 5 months later, they don't even talk anymore.
1,000%.
How many times have we seen that story?
1,000%.
By the way, female friendships have another element to them where women have been pitted against each other because they're programmed to believe that there's a scarcity of jobs, of opportunities, of men. And so the entire time during a friendship, I've noticed a lot of girls, like if you call another girl pretty, the friend will be like, well, don't worry, babe, you're prettier than her. It's like, why are we comparing at all?
I hate the competitive thing.
I can't. And so I don't have people like that around me at all. I've become very selective in who I hang out with. I've become 1,000 times more successful because my friends are fucking amazing. And I think people should be very, very selective about who they choose to be their friends. That's what I think.
I totally agree with that. I lost one of my, it's so funny because you said the whole best friend thing. I lost a good friend because I told her that I thought that the guy that she was seeing was not good for her.
What made you think he wasn't good for her?
Because he grabbed my boob at a party.
Okay.
That seems
okay. Did you
just-
tell
You
her
know what
that?
I mean?
Did you tell her that?
Yeah. I mean, she
And
was
what did-
there.
And what did she say?
She said that she thought that I overstepped by telling her that. And she said that I came at her in an aggressive manner when all I said was, I think you are amazing, intelligent, and too good for this guy. I don't like your dynamic. Like, I don't want to really be a part. She asked me to like double date. And I was like, I don't want to be a part of it. Like, I'm seeing the side where you're calling me sick to your stomach, you know, crying, throwing up. And I'm not going to be there for this wine tasting. You know, I'm not going to support this. You're so much better than that. We are no longer friends. And I've had this thing with females before where I've heard from one that I am not honest enough, where if I hear someone talking shit, I should tell them. But then when you do that, then you get cut because, you know, shoot the messenger. So I've had a very hard time with navigating, and I have taken it upon myself to really sit with information that's been given to me and really weigh the pros and cons of giving them information and why I would want to do that. Would it be to, you know, break their tie, make them feel better, make them feel worse, you know, make them feel safer? I think that's really important because I think a lot of girls readily give negative information in hopes of knocking their confidence down. And I think a lot of that is a scarcity thing of, you know, when you left the room, all the guys were saying something mean about you. Did she really need to know that? I don't think so.
Nope.
And then you could call me disloyal, but I think that that was protecting the person because what is that information going to do? How is it going to benefit her?
Yeah, I fully believe that what people say about you behind your back is none of your business.
None of your business. I couldn't agree more.
None of your business. It
I don't
does
want to
nothing.
know.
Yeah. And so I think your thought process is 100% spot on the way it should be, and good on you for telling your friend that. And then that's not a friendship. Mm-hmm. To me, that's not a friendship.
100%.
If a friend came to me and told me a guy wasn't good for me because this, and this, I would seriously evaluate that entire relationship and be like, wait a second, is she right? I would at least consider it. Mm-hmm. And not assume. But here's the other thing. It's like a lot of times it could be that girl isn't reacting to you. She's reacting to all the jealous friends she's had in the past and then projecting them onto you.
Yeah.
And so that's another problem we have. But I think about this all the time because I want women to feel good about themselves. I want them to be empowered, not in a way where they hate men and bash men or anything like that, but in a way that they feel like they have options and opportunities and that they can go out and do things and make money and have beautiful relationships. And I don't think we're going to get there until we stop with the scarcity mentality and we stop comparing, you know, the way we look to the way another girl looks. I read this quote a couple years ago that said something like, just because somebody else is beautiful doesn't mean you're not. Christmas lights are pretty, but so are snowflakes, or like something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, like, damn, how true is that?
Yeah.
It's like someone's shine doesn't take away from yours, but nobody teaches us that. They just go, oh, don't worry, babe, you're prettier, as if it's a competition. It's not. And men know that. Men don't go sitting there and looking through Instagram, looking at their ex's new boyfriend and being like, don't worry, bro, you're hotter than him. You're hotter than him. Like, it's not, that doesn't happen.
Oh, that does happen.
Do you do that?
Oh, that happens.
No, that happens.
That happens.
You're hotter than him?
Nah, we
We're
don't
like, dude,
phrase
you're
it
way more
that
jacked.
way.
You're way more jacked.
They'll definitely
Yeah,
say
I guess the jacked
they'll
part
definitely
is
be like,
where...
oh, dude, seriously, that guy? Bro, really?
You're way better looking.
That dude? Like that, bro, that's crazy.
But see, that's the thing, is that I think we'd be a lot better off, both sexes, if we stop doing that. Because just because someone is more jacked or more beautiful or richer doesn't mean that they're less compatible with that person.
Oh, 100%.
Well, I think it's a problem of like the unknown. Like, humankind in general does not like the unknown. Like, doubt is like very unhealthy and toxic to all of us, but it's inevitable. And I think that we all want to put our finger on the reason why we were left, cheated on, what, you know, we weren't good enough, when in reality it could just be like wrong place, wrong time, not enough love. You just weren't compatible. You know, it just wasn't right.
Yeah.
But we don't want to say, oh, maybe it was because I didn't make them laugh as much, or like I wasn't smart enough. It's more like, well, if I had just had no cellulite or a bigger ass, like, then I wouldn't have gotten cheated on.
Yeah,
It's so sick. It's the justifications we make, and
Yeah, if somebody cheats, they're cheating because of them, not because of anything you did.
Yeah.
That's a personal issue.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this too. In the past, if any of my buddies bring up, who one of my exes is dating or whatever, talking to or whatever, I'm like, hey, I'm good on chatting about that. Truly, I'm good on chatting about that because I'm like, listen, we didn't work out for some reason, right? So like, I don't really care who they date, whatever. They can go date whoever. I don't know their relationship. I can't look on social media and determine what I truly think of their relationship. And so I'm like, you know what? Wish them well. It's in the past. I'm keeping it in the past. And so I move the conversation on. There's definitely, I would say, some dudes who kind of need that. Some guys kind of need like, hey, you need to gas me up. Like maybe they got their heart broken, right? They kind of need the gas up, right? And you're like, oh, bro, like, oh, she's just, she's got super shitty taste, yada, 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 like whatever it may be. But like some guys need that. Some people don't. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't look at social media and truly judge somebody by that because, I mean, as we all know, it's like there's so many layers to people that you don't see on social media. So to be fair, she could be dating the like coolest person in the world. I don't even know who that would be. She starts dating Tom Brady, right? Like whatever. I'm not going to be like, oh man, I'm so jealous of Tom Brady. I have no idea what he's like in a private conversation. He could be absolutely the worst person to have a conversation with. I have no clue. I don't know the guy. So I have no idea, therefore don't care. So that's the way that I look at it, and I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, I'm jealous or envious of this person or whatever, because like then it comes back to your own insecurities. I'm cool with who I am. Like I'm cool with what I bring to the table. I'm cool with what I don't bring to the table. So if what I bring to the table is not right for you, well then okay, cool. Let's keep it moving.
See, this is a secure man though.
Very secure.
And then
he's weirdly healthy.
Yeah, and that's what it looks like because it's not about masculinity and femininity. As a person, he's mature.
Self-assurance.
Yeah. So this same thing. If I heard a woman saying these things, I'd be like, oh, super secure.
Absolutely.
Secure human being. And so that's what we need to get to.
I had one of my best guys.
Society. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
No, go on. Go on.
I'm like, I want to talk. I like praise you for listening. I'm like, my turn. Literally.
What's up, man?
I know. Listen to me. One of my best guy friends told me that my best relationship will be the one that doesn't look good on Instagram. And I've always dated guys where it was very public. And I always was like, wanted to take the couple's picture at the wedding. I wanted to make sure everyone knew I was in a relationship and we love each other so much. And now I'm in a relationship where I barely post the guy, yet he's not my world because we don't want that, but he's the best thing that ever happened to me. But like, you wouldn't know I'm even in a relationship because that to me is private and sacred and I protect that. Whereas the other ones, they weren't that sacred to me. So I'll expose it. Like anyone can voice their opinion. Whereas the one I'm with now, if you say anything negative against him, I will find you.
Wait, I have a question. How did you meet and how did you know that this was someone you wanted to like date seriously? I
met him in real life. I met him at a Super Bowl party at his house. I was a +1 and to one of my girlfriends and I didn't know anybody and I just instantly clicked with this guy. And he said that he didn't try with me because he didn't think he had a chance. Whereas I thought he was just like the most confident, cool guy ever. And we were like icebreakers. Like we were talking about all the heavy topics. And to me, I thought we had like this chemistry and we're just clicking. And to him, he was just like, that's not going to happen. So I might as well just be myself.
So how did it happen?
Well, I definitely pursued him. And then I found out that he was younger than I was. And
hot.
Yeah. Apparently.
Wait, how much younger?
3.5 years.
That's nothing.
Going on 4. Yeah.
That's nothing.
But to me, it was huge because I've only ever dated older.
Same.
And I was embarrassed.
Because that's what they teach you.
They teach you.
Oh, you need to be with an older man who's established and can take care of you. And
yeah.
By the way, I don't have anything against that. In a lot of situations, that works. But I faded younger guys for the longest time. And then I met someone who was younger than me. And then I met another guy who was younger than me, and they were pretty flirty, but it was different than because when I was in my 20s, all I dated was guys who were 10 years older than me.
Yes.
Then I started like seeing 3-4 years younger.
Yeah.
And
there's more respect.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
There's so much more
There's
respect.
more respect, and it's like I even look at Gen Z, and the guys are super like they hear about a girl who's like working and killing it, and they're like, "Fuck yeah, babe." They're like, hell yeah, that's my girl. When I was younger, like 10 years ago, I remember I would tell guys that I had all these dreams and ambitions, and they'd be like, I don't need you to do all that. I can take care of everything. And it's like, to them, it was like a threat that I even wanted to work and do things.
Totally. Your role's the kitchen.
Yeah.
Mentality.
Or like I need someone to be the mother of my children. And
Absolutely.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So they don't have that warped worldview. They're like, fuck yeah, this girl's a badass. I love it.
Totally. And that's, my boyfriend isn't like, I didn't want someone that had like provider energy, because I want to be able to do it myself. I love taking care of myself. I just want someone that supports me. And I think
that's the thing. That's still provider energy.
It is. It's emotional provision. So I get that.
So I actually think, and that goes back to what you said. It's like the internet makes it seem like, oh, women are looking for providers and they're all gold diggers. And then like, guys are looking for girls who are super hot and blah, blah, blah. And it makes dating very scary and very like, oh, is this actually going to happen for me? When really, like, okay, the same way we define the word friend, or the way we define love, we need to define provider. It's different for everybody. Those words are very personal. Maybe my definition of friendship is not your definition of friendship. My definition of love may not be someone else's definition of love. By the way, there are couples who literally, the guy dates the girl because she's hot, and she dates him because he's rich, and they're both happy.
And they're aware.
And who am I to say that that's not love? That's their definition of love. It's not mine.
Yeah, I mean,
it's transactional.
Yeah, I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
I think there's levels to love, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think that couple, like, in my opinion, I could be wrong, 70 years old, 80 years old, I don't know if they're still happy, right? Like,
but see, we don't know anything else about them.
Right, we don't know.
When it's funny because we wouldn't think. Have you heard the statistic on arranged marriages?
Oh, they're very successful.
They're very successful. And by the way, what do you know what they look for in when a family arranges a marriage between a man and a woman, the first thing they look at is if the guy has money. That's the first fucking thing they look at, just FYI. Or the fact that, or it's not even just status. In some cultures, you're right, it 100% is. But it's like, can this man provide while my daughter bears children and takes care of them? And so to me, that doesn't really seem gold digger-ish. It's like, a division of labor, or like, you know what I mean? So it depends how you look at it again. Who are we to judge? It's like what you said about Hailey and Justin Bieber. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like.
Could be beautiful.
Yeah.
Could be beautiful.
Could be amazing.
Yeah.
Could be amazing. Could be complete shit.
Could be scary.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And so that's the conversation that we need to start having, is that we don't know. But here's the definition of this, and here's that, and here's how you attain it, and here's how you build intimacy, and here's how you can be a good partner, and here's how you can ask for your partner's needs and fulfill whatever it is. And nobody's having those conversations, so we need to shift the combo.
Well, yeah, and I think a large part of it comes back to people need to be like, no two relationships are the same, and no two people's needs are the same. So like, you need to ask yourself what you need to be happy, right? Because everybody's got a different definition of that. And so what is it that makes you genuinely happy? And then what is it that makes your partner genuinely happy? And are you two even remotely compatible on those two things? If you are, then okay, cool. You've probably got something substantial there. But I think there's a lot of people that, when you go back to, like, for example, I have really no desire to raise kids in LA. Like, when I get to the point of having children, I will most likely leave LA. And so if the girl that I'm talking to is like, hey, I see myself raising kids in LA, living in LA, being in like the hills or the Palisades or whatever, raising my kids, walking through there for farmer's market, I don't see that. Like, and it's not to say I won't change my mind. Maybe I will someday. But like, I just can't picture that for myself right now. I picture myself living elsewhere from Los Angeles because I don't want my kid addicted to coke at 7. Okay. So, I mean, that's the way that I look at it. I just think there's too many temptations here for a young kid to be raised. Right. And so, with all of that, I think people need to have more conversations about what they're actually looking for and things like that. My issue with where we tie too much of our happiness to things like beauty and things like money is that those two things are, one, can change very quickly, and two, are things that like don't have a lot of depth to them. And I think the issue with it is you grow used to both things very quickly. And so great healthy conversation, you'll never get over. Everybody always will enjoy for the rest of the time great conversation. You'll enjoy somebody who has that infectious energy that you just want to be around, somebody who's very supportive of you and everything like that. But, when I first got into photography, I remember how many of my buddies said to me, "Oh, dude, you're around all these hot women all the time. Like, that's got to be so crazy." And I'm like, dude, you get over that after like the fourth shoot. Like, you just stop caring because it's like it becomes normal to you. You just don't care. And it's the same thing with like, if you're going on dates with a guy and he's unbelievably wealthy and he's picking you up in his AMG and he's taking you to every, 5-star restaurant and everything like that. The 10th time he picks you up in the AMG and takes you to the 5-star restaurant, it's not hitting the same. It's not. And so, it's like, I do think there's certain times I then look at that couple that, they're only going on those, baller ass dinners for special occasions. And it hits more on that special occasion. It doesn't hit when that's every single Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? So I just think, again, it's like, I'm not saying you can't chase beauty, you can't chase money and things like that. But if the other things aren't there, then to me, your relationship has such little depth to it that the odds of that actually leading to a happy life is so low to me that I'm like, I just have no interest in that. So again, the real things that matter are, like, I remember I said to a buddy one time, and it was one of the craziest conversations, but I said to him, I was like, you and your girlfriend, can you name 3 things that you guys enjoy doing together outside of having sex, watching Netflix, and eating? And he was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, okay, name them. And he's like, so many things. And I was like, name them. And he was like, bro, so many things. And I was like, name one. And he couldn't. And I was like, the fuck?
Oh, if I was that girl, I'd been out.
I would have been out, yeah.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't there during that conversation.
Yeah, but
Still.
Well, and to be fair, that relationship ended like 6 months later. You know,
Okay.
so it's like, to me, it's one of these things where people don't chase a lot of depth. They chase these things that are surface level. They chase the, there are places that you can rent private jets for photo shoots. And how many guys are taking photos in that shit and then posting that on Instagram? The girl's like, oh my God, he's got that kind of money. You know what I mean?
It's so embarrassing.
It's really embarrassing. I remember going to a photo studio and seeing one of the plane sets.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a second. I have seen this same plane. And then it clicked.
100%.
Oh my God.
For a lot of men. Yeah.
Well, and what people are also doing is, here, give a spoiler alert to people. In LA, you can pay like $100 to take a private jet to Vegas. So you can do that. Now,
You can?
Go through Jet Suite?
Jet Suite, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, mind you, there's a few other people on the plane with you, but it's because it's a 35, 40-minute flight. So it's so quick that they can do that. And so there are people who then post that photo like they went on this baller ass, whatever.
But it doesn't look like the interior of those other jets, does it?
But they can board the plane. You know what I mean? Like on not the tarmac.
Oh,
Right,
So that they're like getting on.
They're getting the tarmac
Yeah.
photo. They're getting all that shit, right? And so, again, it's like there's so much of social media that is an absolute facade. And so if you just take social media out of it, get into the depth of somebody, you actually see, does this person actually have substance? And I think there's been so many times, so many entrepreneurs that have started off, they were dating somebody when they were dead broke. And actually a great example of it is well, they're no longer together, but they have a great relationship, is Dave Portnoy and his wife, Renee Portnoy. Like, they're still technically married. People don't really talk about that. But like, she was with him when he was dead broke. And like, she was working to provide for them as he was working to get this business off the ground. And they were there to support each other and everything like that. Once Barstool became what it is, they no longer, it wasn't like they were no longer, their lives were no longer compatible in that sense. But as humans, they still had so much love and respect for each other that he still very much supports her life, supports what she does. And literally, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they said, if something happened to you, who would take Mrs. Peaches, his dog? And he was like, oh, Renee. And
Wow.
And it's like, so that's the amount of respect there, but there's depth to that relationship. That's why they still, even though they didn't work for other reasons, there was depth to the relationship, which allows there to still be respect. And so I just think so much, if you don't have depth in your relationship, there's no respect there. And so that's where I think why I view those. I'm not saying every marriage that has depth is going to work. There's a lot of other factors in life that cause certain marriages to not work and things like that. But with that, at minimum, if your relationship has depth, you probably have respect there. And like, that should be the absolute minimum of what we accept in relationships is respect. And it's crazy how uncommon that is.
That's bars.
Rant over.
I know.
That's
That
bars.
took my breath away.
That's bars.
I mean, that's where we're at. So is that where we wrap up? This has been a great podcast.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
You have to come back.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll come back anytime.
100%. And I feel like we just we can't do it right now, but we got to go grab drinks soon and just keep
absolutely.
the conversation going.
Yeah.
So, one of these times we're just going to sit here. I'm drinking a little wine right now, but we still have to be functional today. One of these times we're just going to sit here, each of us with a bottle of wine. We're just going to get tanked and just turn on these mics
and just chat.
See where the conversation goes.
Just yap.
So, because I had an idea of where this conversation was going to go when we first started, but we jumped over 50 different subjects. So this was great.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Oh my gosh, anytime.
No problem. And drop your podcast. Let everybody know where they can find more of your content.
It's called Beyond the Interview. So if you go, it's funny because I have a page called Beyond the Interview, and then Beyond with Nicole is where all my podcast clips go. So you can go on either or, and then it's everywhere you can find podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Beyond the Interview.
There we go.
Love that. It's gonna be good stuff. I can tell.
Well, hey, appreciate you coming on. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll chat with everybody later.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.